Who have you got as a character profile this week, Michael?
Well, because this week was all about the great outdoors for Ken and Deirdre, at least it was for Monday, I thought, who else in Coronation Street's past has been all about outdoor stuff? And then I thought, of course, Spider Nugent. That's who we're doing this.
Spider Nugent.
Spider, we're going to talk about. We mentioned him last week on the podcast. But yeah, we're going to find out about Corrie's other famous camper.
He's 10 years older than us.
Is he? Oh yeah, born in 1972. His actual name is Geoffrey, of course, which is what his Auntie Emily calls him. His father was Edgar Nugent, and he first appeared on the 15th of December 1997, before calling it a day on the 5th of February 2003. Although that was like, he'd left properly after a couple of years, like 99 or something, and then he was one of these returning characters every now and again. Then he ended up whisking Toyah away at the end. So you must have seen him a little bit, but you can't have seen him very much because you didn't watch him in the original.
No.
He was in 242 episodes in all, and he was played by Martin Hancock. Now, there's a bit of an interesting backstory with Spider.
Now, this, I think, is total bollocks, what Granada said.
What?
Well, everyone knows he's based on Swampy, and you cannot tell me that he's not based on Swampy. But Granada says he's not. He said, when we set out to create the character, we were creating our own character, someone who is keen on environmental issues. We don't know what the real Swampy is like. We have long-term planning meetings, so before you see the character on screen, the idea has been conceived 18 months before.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So this Swampy, for people who don't know, was this environmental activist.
At the time, he was incredibly famous.
Yeah. Interestingly, he became incredibly famous about 18 months before Spider appeared on screen.
Isn't that coincidence?
It was like early 1996. Well, let's just
say, he was 22. He's called Daniel Hooper, but everyone knew him as Swampy. And he was a dirty hippie who spent his time trying to stop people from building things. So it was in 1996. He spent a week living in tunnels that his group constructed to protest about the A34 bypass around Newbury.
I think that's the road that we go on when we go and see my mum and dad. So.
Screw you, Swampy! So he also tried to stop the building of the second runway at Manchester Airport, and now he lives in a yurt in a New Age commune in Wales. I'm surprised Deirdre and Ken didn't see him. Now, everybody kind of loves Swampy because he was kind of like this goofy guy doing the right thing, trying to help the environment, and everyone agrees that, you know, the environment's important, but we want to go...
Yeah, we don't want to destroy the countryside, really, but, you know, we want to get past Newbury.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Newbury.
But yeah, he was just all in the papers at the time, wasn't he?
He was everywhere because he was such an easy character to understand exactly what he wanted. He was like a caricature of an eco-warrior, because this was all another thing. Eco-warriors were everywhere.
They were, but they're because of him, really, weren't they? That's what brought it into the public consciousness.
And you don't get that now at all. There's nobody like that now.
No, it was a little flash in the pan, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Swampy is... You can't tell me that Spider is not.
I know, I don't believe it at all. I think even Martin has said himself since then that he thinks that it was based on Swampy, but Granada says no.
I don't know what is the benefit of trying to say that he's not based on Swampy.
Well, it's because you're not allowed to. You'd have to give him a load of money, wouldn't they, Granada, or something?
I think they'd accuse him of defamation or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. But Spider turned out okay anyway. So let's talk about him. We know about the actual Swampy. Let's find out about who he inspired.
Fake Swampy.
Well, we know that a little bit about his past from before he was in Coronation Street, before he appeared. In the 1990s, apparently, he was doing a politics degree, which he dropped out of in his second year, and then he went to go and live in a community in Queensland, protesting against zinc mining and deforestation of the Australian rainforests.
See, that's another thing.
Is that right? Are there rainforests in Australia, or maybe it's just other rainforests?
There are.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't see anyone we went to see the
Australia's got loads of rainforest.
Oh,
everyone thinks about it just having
desert,
bushland and stuff, but it doesn't.
Yeah. He got deported back to England in 1996.
That's another thing you don't hear anything about these days either. The ozone layer and the rainforest and acid rain. When we were kids, I thought we were going to die of one of those three things.
Captain Planet saved it all.
Oh,
It's got nothing to worry
I think it's because I
anymore.
recycled quite a lot of my cans when I was a child. So crisis averted, everybody.
Yeah, we're okay. So he got deported back to England in 1996, and then in late 1997 he showed up on his Auntie Emily's doorstep saying, "My dad said you were a bit of a goer, so I thought you'd be cool with it. I won't sponge off you for long, I've got the world to save and all that." I mean, that line, that kind of summed up what the character was going to be like.
Bring back Swampy. Him
Spider or Swampy?
Oh, see?
You keep
I
getting
reckon
confused in your own mind.
If only Maddie wasn't a lesbian, Spider would be the perfect man.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, scruffy
Scruffy
gets
oink.
together. Scruffy oinks together.
Scruffy, loud-mouthed,
Well,
salt of the earth types.
Before long, Spider had got in with Toyah. This was about 6 months, I think, after the Battersbys had crashed onto the street, and everybody hated them when the Battersbys came in. But Toyah was always a bit different. She wasn't quite so loud-mouthed as the other three. I mean, she was
like the Hermione of the Battersbys.
A little bit. I mean, in the first scene with the Battersbys coming in, with like Leanne and Toyah having stolen a shopping trolley full of stuff, I mean, she was definitely a Battersby at heart, but she was always the kind of a bit more the sensitive, slightly more intelligent one, I guess. And she was, I think she saw this like hero in Spider, somebody that was saving the planet or whatever, and she thought, yeah, have a bit of that. And I think she fancied him a little bit too. On Christmas that year, they had a famous couple of episodes where Les has got a turkey called Teresa from one of his mates, because he plans to kill it himself and have it for the Battersby Christmas dinner. So Spider doesn't like the sound of that. It does sound pretty horrific, actually. And together with Toyah, he helps liberate Teresa from the kitchen, although she escaped from the farm they took her to and ends up getting run over by a car.
Yes.
You've seen those clips. That's a common Christmas Corrie clip show scene. Yeah, feathers everywhere.
Now, in 1998, Spider. Damn it! I was trying to concentrate.
Now, we won't talk about Swampy anymore.
He hears of the council's plan to build a concert bowl on the Red Wreck, which is also the site of the rare hoary groundwort, and he protests alongside Toyah, Roy, and Emily in Councillor Roberts' garden, and then on the Red Wreck, and
We've seen Councillor Roberts' garden. And
then they dig a load of tunnels. And Emily made the front page news by spending the night up a tree, and I tell you what, she hasn't shut up about it since.
Was that in like the did you hear about that when it was on? Because that seemed to me like that Emily up a tree was a big story.
It only got in the papers because of
eco warriors
Swampy.
being a thing. Yeah.
And they only did it because of that.
Yeah.
You can't tell me not.
So this hoary groundwort that they were trying to protect, I did look it up on Wikipedia just to see if it is not a thing.
What?
No, but obviously groundwort I think is a thing, or wart sounds like real, and hoary is something else. I think they combine some.
Are there really any endangered plants?
What, in Manchester?
Can you not just dig them up and put them somewhere else? I can understand like endangered animals, but surely a plant you could just dig it up.
It's easy to move an animal, isn't it?
No, because they got environments and stuff.
I don't know.
But you know nothing about science.
I know nothing. So they're having this protest on the Red Wreck, and it looked like the bulldozers were going to be sort of shaking them out of their trees.
Crushing Emily.
But they managed to uncover the ruins of a Roman settlement inside their tunnels, and so the Red Wreck became protected ground, and the council's plans were thwarted. Hooray! Victory for Spider. I nearly said something there. Later that year, he went on to campaign against the sale of Norwegian prawns at Firman's freezers, because apparently it meant that they were supporting whale hunting. I think by this time, I mean, he'd been in the programme for like 2 or 3 months at this point, and it was pretty clear which side his bread was buttered, I think.
What do you mean?
He is definitely eco-warrior, fighty. There's no two ways about like slowly introducing the character. This is what they wanted him to do.
Now, Log, who was an ex of Spider's, shows up on the scene to Toyah's annoyance because she started fancying him. And then Spider tells Toyah they're going to be comrades in arms forever.
Yeah, it's a bit of an unrequited love story. It's quite sad.
Starts to rekindle his romance with Log. Sounds like something you do in the toilet. But he dumps her after he catches her eating a bacon sandwich.
Oh. What about her principles?
Exactly. So this bacon's delicious.
Spiders crawl out of the bath. Logs come out the... No, they're going...
Come out of the toilet? You need to phone the plumber.
Later that year, he stood against Audrey in the council elections, although he revealed to Emily that even if he wins, he wasn't going to take on the position anyway because he was an anarchist. And in the end, Audrey ended up beating him by 7 votes.
I don't get anarchists. Isn't that funny?
They just like to mess with the system. 1999. He was helpful in evicting squatter Jackie Dobbs from Curly's house because he'd gone off away somewhere. And in the meantime, Jackie had got out of prison because she was Deirdre's prison mate, and her and Tyrone were squatting in Curly's house. While they were there, Curly and Spider refused to leave as well, so Tyrone phoned his dad, said, "Oh, my dad's going to come and sort you out," because Tyrone must have been a bit of a yob back at the beginning, a bit like his mum. But actually, Tyrone's dad was quite reasonable, and he whisked Jackie off, and we've never seen him again. I'd kind of forgotten about all that, and I just assumed that Tyrone didn't know his dad, or Jackie had never said who his dad was, because they're never mentioned, are they?
No.
I mean, Jackie's been back and forth a little bit over the year, but I don't know. Has there been any mention of Dad? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. But maybe he could always come back. This isn't about Tyrone, is it? Okay. Spider,
not Swampy, develops a crush on Nita Desai. Only she wants him as a friend.
So it's okay though, because he was able to rekindle his romance with Toyah that summer when they had a solar eclipse.
And what happens in the tent?
They ended up missing the eclipse because they were bonking away instead. They were caught up by the emotion and the celestial
elegance
of the event.
Who knows? Do you really need an excuse?
No. Well, Spider was pretty embarrassed by all this because he was just carried away. He spent the next week avoiding Toyah, but eventually she convinces him to start a relationship. Les wasn't happy though because he was just a scruffy oik.
Exactly.
I would have thought that would fit in with the Badgers quite well, but
no, he's a hippie.
So Toyah goes to live at number 3 with Emily, but she throws her out because she wasn't very much of a fan of
Hanky Panky
between Toyah and Spider.
No. So they end up living on a tent in the Red Wreck, and then they set Emily's living room on fire while they had to look after her house in the autumn.
What larks?
How did they do that? Was Spider like, "No, I'm an anarchist, I'm not going to use the central heating, let's start a fire"?
I can't remember what they did. Don't remember.
Don't tell me what to do. I know how to live off the land.
He got a job later that year, going against his anarchist principles. He ended up working at the Beneficence Agency. But the reason that he worked there was because when he was in his interview, the guy that was interviewing turned out to be a fellow eco-warrior, Ganja Tim.
Ganga? It didn't say Ganja.
Ganga.
I wouldn't think he would be called Ganja Tim.
Why?
Because that means that's drugs.
Yeah, I think it was.
Really?
Spider had...
Does Corrie people know what drugs are?
Yeah, Spider had drugs at one point.
Really?
I think it was when Emily came back off her holiday and Spider had some marijuana in this little pot on the side of the sideboard, and then Emily goes, "Oh, how could you? Ernest gave me that pot." And Spider says, "Oh no, I'm giving you mine," as he hands his pot over to Auntie Emily. But yeah, he was a...
How bizarre.
Bit on drugs, I think, Spider.
He's a bit on drugs.
But he's an anarchist,
so
you know.
He wants to work the system from the inside with Ganja Tim, apparently, and discovers that Les is falsely claiming benefits and is caught out when he tries to get rid of incriminating evidence.
Yes.
Whoops.
By 2000, by this point, because Spider had a job and everything, he was moving away from his anarchist principles, and Toyah started to think that Spider was turning into a bit of a pleb,
a bit of a pleb.
one of the establishment, which he realised himself after he had to deny a single mother benefits. So he quit. He jumps on the table, does a rousing speech about "I'm sticking it to the man," and then he leaves. He decided to go on a spiritual journey to India with Toyah that summer, but she didn't want to leave Weatherfield, so he went off without her.
Yes,
free love, man.
I want somebody like Spider in the show now.
Do you?
I just find this whole thing hilarious.
It does sound quite funny reading about it.
The thing is, though, I guess it would grate on you after a while, because the characters have to be true to themselves all the time, otherwise there's no point having them in it, and it gets kind of tedious to have somebody in every scene there and go, "Don't eat bacon, it's bad. I don't like organised anything. I don't believe in jobs."
Yeah, I guess it's a bit like with Sophie with her Christianity, when she was shoving that down everyone's neck at one point a few years ago, wasn't she? And she's kind of
and then
away from that now.
If you don't mention it, it's like, "Well, I thought you were a Christian."
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of
Yeah. Well, Hancock had said himself that he thought Spider was sort of going around in circles a little bit, or he says he said at the time, "Spider is a traveller, and it was inevitable he would have to start travelling again. We agreed it was time for me to go. But like Terry Duckworth, Spider will be back from time to time. I thought long and hard about leaving, but Spider working in the Dole office was not working out. The character started to meander. It's better to go. So he was kind of realising that Spider wasn't the kind of crazy hippie that he came in anymore, and he sort of wanted to go out on top, I guess, because he can't keep that thing up kind of long term.
But as you said before, he keeps coming back in the show.
Well, he came back twice,
a couple of times. In 2001, he visits Weatherfield, hoping to get back with Toyah, but she's not really keen, even though they end up being friends. He borrows £15,000 from Emily, which she affords after selling her house to Richard Hillman, but then magically the Corrie fairies gave it back to her, so she could sell it.
Yeah, that's something that we don't mention.
She is a big scammer.
She's in on it, isn't she?
She's just a little old lady, so when you give her money, she's like, oh yeah, my house is yours when I die. You can trust me, I'm Emily. Whatever. She's probably sold her house to everybody on the street.
Yeah. Well, I think Tibor said at the time in an email that maybe, Emily was like tricking Norris into thinking that he's going to get her house in the will when actually the house didn't belong to her at all. But Richard Hillman was the official owner of the house, but we never heard about her getting it back. But
I would imagine that you're supposed to just believe that because he was a wrong'un, all of his assets were taken and returned.
It's like if you have an evil wizard that puts spells on you, and then if you defeat the wizard, the spells just automatically get cancelled out.
Or like when there's a vampire and he turns all of the minions into vampires, and then when you kill the head one.
Yeah, exactly like that. But Spider wanted to borrow this money to open a juice bar in London. He came back again in 2003. That's
dirty hippie.
That's what they could. They could have him running a juice bar, couldn't they?
In the butcher's.
In the butcher shop, yeah.
Bacon juice.
He came back after hearing that Emily had been attacked in 2003 by Richard Hillman, even though he's the one that kind of
benefited from that little transaction.
He didn't believe Norris's suspicions that it was Richard, though. He returned to London with Toyah, who had just found out that she'd been cheated on by her boyfriend.
There you go.
And they kind of lived happily ever after. It was kind of nice. I mean, I do like Toyah, but I think by the time she left, I was a little bit bored of her, and it's nice to see them going off into the sunset.
Nice to marry him off, like
I assume they're
children.
still together, because Leanne went to see Janice a few weeks ago, didn't she? Because she broke her ankle trying to climb into her house in Blackpool or something. So I assume that she's still there, but I'd like them to come back on another visit, because it's been over 10 years now since we've seen Spider.
I want to have a little hippie baby.
Yeah.
Wearing like a hemp hat.
I want to hear more about them. Well, after leaving Coronation Street, Martin went on to appear in This Life. That was a big thing, wasn't it? I never watched it. I think
is that like This Is Your Life?
No, it was a drama or something on BBC Two, I think, maybe, but I never watched it. He was on that. He was in some films, 24-Hour Party People, never heard of it, Kingdom of Heaven, and Defiance. No, we're shrugging our shoulders at those. Maybe some of our listeners have seen those. He was more recently on TV in Holby City for 18 episodes, and he had a guest role on Doctors.
Oh, Doctors! That's one of the best soaps on television.
No, it's not. So that's all that happened to... That was the story of Spider.
Right.
Yeah, they should have had Ken bumping into him in his yurt.
I like the concept of Spider. I would like it if they had a character like that again.
Well, I don't think they could. They couldn't have an eco warrior, because like they would just say,
over that.
You're just copying Spider. But like, what's like a kind of person of the moment that, or maybe person of 18 months ago that they could have in Coronation Street?
Well, I'm predicting, if you're saying sort of person of the moment 18 months ago who could appear on Coronation Street, can only really be Kate Middleton. So we can have...
I don't think they can have Kate Middleton on Coronation Street, no.
What about a character who starts off as a humble millionaire and then marries into the royal family?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Could do that, couldn't they?
Now we don't watch the news, it's really bad. I don't know what's topical at the moment.
Oh no, the only topical thing really at the moment is chopping people's heads off, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't
really want that to happen in Coronation Street.
No.
We already had a bit of Afghanistan kind of action, didn't we?
Oh, with Gary and Quinny.
Quinny's dead.
No, I don't know what's in the news at the moment. I feel really bad.
I know there's loads of... Well, no. I mean, the only other thing is people being accused of being paedophiles, but we don't really want that in the show either.
I guess Rosie Webster, in a way, was a kind of the moment character, wasn't she? When she was like, I want to be in reality TV and I'm going to go to London and be a model.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got the whole thing about... you had a bit... Because, like, you're saying about what's going on now and like, social media and everything is still... They haven't really done that much about it in Corrie, but they had a little go with it, because you had Beth being cyberbullied, and you had Yasmin taking a selfie, but you haven't had anybody who's really talked about Facebook or Twitter or...
Well, no, but right back at the beginning, they did have Sarah Louise, who had a little internet chat friend, and he turned out to be a dodgy paedophile. But I don't know, maybe that's something we can throw out to our listeners. What of the moment character could we expect to see in Coronation Street in 18 months' time, and then ITV say no, it's just coincidence?
But this is what I was saying before, like about with Izzy and stuff. If you've got one example of like Izzy is the disabled character, and at one time Sophie was the lesbian, when you have only one of something, then they represent the whole.
Yeah. Well, Spider represented eco-warriors, and I think...
Did he do them proud?
I think by the end people still thought they were a little bit nutty, but it was entertaining to watch. But I think
we think they're lovably nutty though, don't we?
Exactly.
Just like
Spider is lovably nutty. Yeah.
Ah, delicious.